Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy, creator and co-host of the Star Trek Wars podcast. Welcome to Star Trek Wars, your official bootleg Strange New Worlds podcast. Season 1 is done, and I hope you loved it as much as I did. There is, however, one person that has not watched it all quite yet, and he's done it for you, folks. It's my son, Connor. Hello, Connor.
Hello. I'm back, baby.
Excited?
I'm thrilled. I have not been this excited for anything. That's not true. But recently, that is true. I'm not excited, except for that Jurassic Park movie.
Oh, I hear that's great.
Yeah, I can't wait for 4 more of those in 10 years, huh? That's exciting. Anyway, yeah.
So
what's up?
These last 5 weeks, you've been banned from Strange New Worlds, so you don't know anything about any of it.
Has it been 5 weeks since we recorded that?
Yep, 5 weeks.
Oh my god! What? No, it was like no.
Time flies when I locked you in this room.
It's like I have like a long Manson beard. There's scribblings all over the walls, and they start to overlap with each other.
I gave you this TV and this VHS with a bunch of things. So what did you watch instead these last 5 weeks?
I've watched quite a few things. So I've watched a lot of Seinfeld, of course. I just finished Seinfeld. I learned that apparently the season finale is like quite controversial in the fandom, which surprises me.
I enjoy it.
I do too.
But yeah, I watched it live at the time, and people were just, it's Lost all over again for me. But I also like the Lost finale. I guess I'm just weird.
I haven't seen Lost, so I cannot comment on it. Let's see, what else? I've watched a lot of original series episodes, mainly from seasons 1 and 2. I don't find 3 worth watching. Of course, the Tholian Web is great. And there's some decent episodes, but no one's really raving about the Cloudminders, unless that is in fact your favorite episode of Star Trek, in which case, more power to you. But yeah, I've watched Balance of Terror, which is one of my favorite ones. I think that's
great.
another super. It's a very acclaimed episode. But I think in the terms of like everyone talks about primarily, like Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, which is
season 3,
which is a season 3 episode, and it's. To me, that episode is like politically important for its message, not a fantastic piece of television, but I think it's a really good like story in terms of what the moral is and how obvious it is. So but only recently has Star Trek gotten preachy,
right?
With its messages. So I've watched Balance of Terror, which I think is kind of underrated. It's just great tense submarine warfare. I love Not Sarek.
Yes.
Whose name I'm forgetting.
Romulan Commander.
Romulan Commander. Yeah, I don't know if his name is ever said, and I don't remember.
Great performance.
Yeah, and I like the number one who looks like Coach from Cheers. Are
you older than I am?
I make very timely references. Just wait till you kids hear my Happy Days jokes.
R.I.P. Coach from Cheers.
R.I.P. Coach from Cheers. And R.I.P. the Fonz. He drank himself to death last night. I don't know if you guys knew that. Sorry.
Henry Winkler just got nominated for another Emmy for his work on Barry.
Posthumously. It's very
hilarious.
It's very sad, folks. He got hit by a car while attempting to slay an elephant while inebriated. It's a very sad story. Don't look it up.
If you get nominated for a comedy after you die, is it posthumous? What other new topical things you've been watching?
Let's see. I watched the last 2 seasons of Married with Children, and it was okay. Had its moments.
It really seemed like it was pretty. From my remembrance, granted, this was the 90s, but it felt like it fell off the last few years.
Oh, yeah. And I don't blame like the performers or anything. Like the actors did fine work with what they were given. But from what I understand, like a lot of the people who made the show had left in the last 2 seasons. And so, and the show has always been like super like mean-spirited.
Yeah.
But there's kind of like like some yikesy kind of messaging. Like there's the no ma'am, which is like a joke,
right?
But the problem is with everything I like, whether that be like my favorite comedian is George Carlin. Like I love George Carlin, and I love like Warhammer, and I love Married with Children, but I hate everyone who likes these things because they don't understand them.
It's fandom's the problem with anything you like these days.
Oh, it's terrible. Like you'll see, or like Blazing Saddles, which is like incredible. And people, so we're kind of rambling. We'll get to Star Trek eventually, folks. But you know,
right. That's what we're here for.
But people, we'll finish this up in an hour. So people will be like, you know, oh, you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today. Like, well, yeah, because there's no need to, because there isn't like the spaghetti western isn't like a thing anymore. You know, the term is revisionist westerns. That's like the norm now.
Yeah.
Which used to be like subversive in like the 60s and 70s with like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Like that, those were like the subversive, edgy westerns, like Clint Eastwood stuff. But for the most part, like in the 50s and 60s, the Western dominated. There was the wholesome West is what a lot of folks call it, which, you know, very positive, and it's about, you know, great men civilizing like the savage West. And then, you know, the Western started to taper off, and, you know, space toys became the new thing. This is actually touched on in Toy Story 2, which is a really, really good movie. And Blazing Saddles killed it. And so, like, you wouldn't need to make Blazing Saddles today, because the idea of someone making like a wholesome West movie is already like, that's a joke. Like, no one would take that seriously anymore. So, anyway, but Married with Children, sorry. So, we're going to get to Star Trek eventually, I promise. You know, so with the last two seasons especially, even with the it's with the last two that I have the most problems with. Like, I like No Ma'am. It's like a joke. It's basically like proto incels, started by Al Bundy, and his theory is that society started to collapse when women started enjoying sex too, and it's like it's a joke,
right?
Like, you know, Al will go on these hilarious rants that are like, you're supposed to make fun of him, you're supposed to be laughing at him, not cheering for him. So he is like this. One of my favorite rants from Al Bundy is when he's talking about, like, he remembers the good old days before, like when your car would have like exhaust pouring through, you know, like the back, and no one could see behind you, and you'd have like, you could throw beer bottles out the window, and you could only see another driver coming by like the black smoke coming from his engine. You know, like, he's going on and on about that, and then the audience is cheering.
Yeah,
they're going like, woo, and he's like connecting that to freedom or something,
right,
and like the loss of the American way. Like, it's a clear like satire, but the audience who are mainly reactionary share those views and think that Al Bundy is like, you know, parroting their ideas. And so that's kind of a big problem I have with it. And so with like No Ma'am, the audience seems to be very split on the misogynists and the women. Because there's like a debate in one episode between No Ma'am and actual women. And the women get all the smart points and the good jabs. And then the No Ma'am guys are just making awful misogynistic comments. And the audience is really split on who to root for. And it's pretty yikesy. So anyway, one more thing. And then we will watch. I mean, we've already watched all the episodes of the Star Treks. Or is that our premise that I've already done that? Or
no?
Oh, good. Okay,
we don't have to lie to them.
Sorry, we privately refer to our fans as peons, as pawns in our little
kind
game.
Of the whole premise of this is you haven't watched these yet. So
I didn't know if we were hoodwinking them.
I don't know what gain with that.
You know, like, it's all part of our ultimate plan to get you to subscribe to our Patreon.
Maybe that's why we don't make money. I don't think about these things.
Yeah, you don't think about manipulating your audience for money. You know, like and subscribe and send us money, and you will get, in fact, a life-size Jeremy statue in your mail, and it's bronze, and it's totally real.
Yep, blows up in 3 minutes. Hey, maybe I'll just erase all this because we should talk after this, and you'd explain to me how I can actually make money.
Oh
with
yeah.
this thing.
Oh, I'm quite the businessman.
Okay, so last thing before we actually do watch Strange New World.
Yeah, what's up?
Didn't you say one last thing?
Oh,
Jesus.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna bring something up. So I watched a movie recently.
Recently? Oh, cool.
I rewatched. It's one of my favorite movies from when I was a youngin' that I haven't seen in about 6 years.
Okay.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, I love that movie.
It is even better than I remember it being. And it was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's mainly because, I mean, I liked all of it, but especially like, it's like Bugs Bunny and, cartoons and whatnot. Because I've always been more of like Looney Tunes kind of guy. Because this is not a hot take. If this is a hot take, wake up, sheep. But Mickey Mouse has never been funny or cool.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse is not a character. He is a brand.
And you see he gets owned by Bugs in their scene together.
With facts and logic.
Yeah.
He's a Bugs Bunny, a true Ben Shapiro, if you will. He's like, let's say hypothetically that you were a cartoon rabbit. Anyway, so, especially this is more of an ode to Looney Tunes than Disney stuff, but the Disney stuff is fine. But this, I don't mean to sound like an old, maybe I am older than you. This is a movie you could not make today. And I don't mean that from like, it's today's snowflake generation, the me generation would cancel this movie.
They did make a movie like this today. I'll get into that when you're done talking.
Space Jam 2?
No. The new Chippendales on, and now I haven't seen it. But it seems like the premise is basically Roger Rabbit, and I've seen somewhat favorable things about it.
I have too. My problem is mainly with a lot of the jokes, and it's that the premises are funny. It's that the joke, but the problem with the jokes is that they explain what the joke is.
Oh.
So there's like, they make fun of like the weird, like Polar Express kind of era of animation.
The creepy looking.
Yeah, like Uncanny Valley stuff. And that's like funny.
Yeah.
Like that's a fun thing to poke at, except that they explicitly call it the Uncanny Valley, and they basically explain the joke. And I don't find that funny. But, especially with like today's like cinematic universe, everyone's obsessed with like franchising. Like you would never get these characters like together in the way that they did. And they also did it so tastefully. And it's so well integrated. And they don't have the characters rapping. Sorry, that's a Space Jam 2
I can't
reference.
I didn't like Space Jam 1, so I can't. I've heard Space Jam 2 is the worst.
I'm shocked that and it's mainly millennials because they're scum. Like they're avocado toast eating scumbags, the lot of them.
What are you, Connor?
I think I'm Generation Me. The me generation. No, I'm a Gen Z, I think. It sucks. It's not even cool. Like Gen X. That sounds like
hey,
so cool.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, like Gen X.
We are cool. We're so laid back and awesome.
Yeah, and other jokes you could tell yourself. And
I was 10 years old when Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out, so you better believe that was my favorite movie.
Oh, it's so good though.
For a year until Batman came out in the theaters in '89.
That's fair. Like going back to Who Framed Roger Rabbit though. Like,
sure.
It's
I'll just put a timestamp on all this.
Oh, we could do that in post if you just want to get to our takes about Star Trek, our Star Trek podcast. We'll get there. But it's, as a fan of noir, I love it. Is such a perfect noir story. Like I would call this an almost perfect movie for what it's trying to do. My only thing that I don't care for is that Judge Doom is a tune.
You don't like that.
And that it's the same tune who killed Eddie's brother. I mean, they set it up in a way, and I like that, like with the rubber gloves and stuff. But I'm not super big on it as a twist. But overall, it is such a great noir story, and the effects are amazing. Like, I don't know if you've seen the behind-the-scenes stuff, but like all the penguins or like the octopus in the bar, like it's literally just objects on like
it was amazing.
poles.
Yeah.
And if this came out today, it would all be CGI.
Yep.
I don't mean to sound like an old person.
Sure.
But, that just does not do it for me. So we might have to review that sometime because I have a lot to say about it.
Decades, but it was a favorite of mine for sure.
Yeah, I quite like it. Very dark for a kids' film. Like
a lot of the humor
deaths.
passes over you when you're a kid too. Like there's a lot of great darker humor in the film.
My favorite line is when one of the weasels reaches into Jessica Rabbit's bra and a bear trap gets him, and then he says, "Nice booby trap."
Yeah.
Do you get it?
I got that at 10 and probably died laughing like a weasel.
Anyway, hey folks, I heard you like Star Trek, so we're going to be talking about that.
All right, Connor. I didn't know that was going to go on for 15 minutes, so let's get into the next one. We do have a couple questions for you from the fans.
Nice. All right, I'm ready.
I've narrowed it down to 2. So Wayne Fraser asks, have you seen Lower Decks? And if so, what do you think of it?
Oh, I think it's the death of Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future. No, it's I really like it. I think with every season, the trend is that the first 1 or 2 episodes is always the weakest, and then it just gets progressively better as the season goes on. So I really like season 1, love season 2, and I'm really excited for the 3rd season, especially as it's a post Nemesis show, and that's always exciting, and it's a great way to get people back for, in my opinion, pretty tasteful cameos. I think the humor is really good. I think probably my least favorite episode is probably the first episode of the series.
Same.
And that's mainly because a lot of the humor is like just referential. And I'm not like a prude when it comes to that kind of stuff, but it was mainly just, Mariner saying like, I'll be your Chadich, and it's like, oh, I get that reference. And then, but otherwise I quite like the show and I like all the characters.
Fantastic. And season 3 premieres August 25th.
Oh, on Paramount Plus, which is available for a very affordable price. What a great streaming service. Today's episode is sponsored by Paramount.
Sometimes it works. And our last question comes from a longtime listener, first time writing in, Jordan Rosenwinkel.
Who?
He says, just one Strange New Worlds related question. Who would win in a fight, Neelix or Jar Jar?
Oh, Jar Jar, easily. Like, that's not even a question. So Neelix, in the first, if we're talking about season 1, episode 1, Neelix, maybe he could ace it because he's actually a good character in the first episode of Voyager. Now, I have some hot.
Is he taking a bubble bath in that episode?
Well, you got to give the ladies something to look at. You got to give the ladies some eye candy. Now, some of us fellas, we also got Chakotay, but then we get 7 of 9, and then they get together, and that's like double the eye candy. Anyway, so. But to answer Jordan's question, and talking about Voyager episode, like he was actually a competent character. He's kind of like a trickster. I had terrible takes about that episode. I think it certainly has its problems, but Neelix is way more interesting in that episode than like for most of the episodes in the series. Except like Jitrell. There's some great Neelix stuff. They're not people, they're Neelixes, right? That's referential humor to a hot take on her.
It'll be excited when we go back and revisit every episode of Star Trek in 10 years.
Yeah.
And see what we think.
And then after that, we revisit every episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
And then...
I don't want to listen to those.
No, me neither. That would be hell on earth. And also, there's nothing more sad than a podcast review.
Oh my god, we'd be giving the same scores to our podcast as we gave to Voyager in its first season.
Oh god. Anyway, but
so
Jar Jar would ace it though, because look at him in the Phantom Menace, man. He's jumping, he's bouncing. You could say, well, he's a bumbling oaf, and I'm not doing like actually, he's a Sith Lord. No. I don't think that, but I mean the man is bouncing. He's like a rabbit. He's like a cartoon rabbit. All right. He's one of the Goongas, as George Lucas would call them. All right. And he's like blowing up tanks and defeating battle droids all on accident because he's just so freaking clumsy. Like Jar Jar would absolutely destroy Neelix. And I'm sorry, snowflakes, if that offends you, but maybe you need to get out of your Neelix Voyager echo chamber and duel me in the arena of facts and logic.
That's a pretty good point. Like, the second that they started fighting, I would imagine it being like in a mess hall. Neelix would approach him. Jar Jar would slip on a plate, and like a Neola root would just like fly out through Neelix's neck, and the match would be over.
Exactly.
Like, if Neelix got his hands on Jar Jar, Neelix would win, but Jar Jar would fall, and somehow that would kill Neelix before he got a chance.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I get that.
Yeah. So that's just another Connor Reed hot take that the woke media is not ready for.
Awesome, Connor. All right, now, before we get into Star Trek, our next segment... super brief. We got a review on Apple Podcasts by WF1019. He says, they say, love the show. The fan interaction is great, and the content is hilarious as well as informative. Highly recommend. So thank you so much for writing that. If you want to support us, the absolute best thing you can do is take a minute and leave a 5-star iTunes Apple Podcast review. That might not seem like much, but it is huge for our algorithms. Recent reviews are what help other like-minded Trekkies like you find us, so please write a 5-star review and we'll read it on air. Now, I think we've stretched this out enough. Connor, what do you think?
Oh, well, I don't think we stretched it out enough.
Okay. Well, as stated before, Connor has waited until today to watch the back 5 of Strange New Worlds' inaugural season for the first time. And just like last time, we will go and watch an episode, then come back here and discuss it before moving on to the next. It's been 5 weeks, Connor. Are you ready to finish the fight?
I was born ready.
All right. Well, then we will leave here and watch episode 6, titled Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach.
Oh, God. All right. Is this another one, You Were Born to Die or whatever the last one was called? The sad one with the Latin.
The last one we saw was Spockamuck. Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, I was thinking of what was it? The one
Memento Mori.
Oh yeah, Mamma Mia Pizzeria.
Yeah.
with Guapo. We're bringing back.
Yeah.
Welcome to Guapo posting our new podcast. Anyway,
right.
Yeah, bring on the guap.
All right, we got the guap. We will be right back. All right, hot off the presses, we are back. We just watched episode 6, Lift Us, Where Suffering Cannot Reach. Connor, we just finished this episode about a minute ago. What did you think?
Oh my God. So, first impressions, I thought it was good. Probably my least favorite episode of the show thus far. Not that it was bad. I just want to put that out there. I don't think it was good. It was a very good episode. But it didn't reach the highs that every other episode has kind of gotten for me. So if we were rating this, I'd give this one like a 6, which is good. Like, in terms of like the first episode that I didn't like love, giving it like a 6 is, that's decent. So I did quite like it though. So we got the first appearance of Samuel Kirk. Is that his first name? Is it Sam?
Yeah, Sam Kirk.
Yeah, he got a Stanley cameo in there, and that'll be the last we see of him for the rest of the season and the show, I assume. So, get on your writers for remembering that he exists. But the actual, so what is their planet called?
Magellan?
Magellan. The Margarine Man people are they're an interesting bunch of lunatics, and I was just the thing about Star Trek is like we're supposed to it's all about like multiculturalism. There's also like you people are barbarians. What is wrong with you? But those people are just like, oh wait, these are just humans, and basically for all intents and purposes, because there are people who think like this in the real world. Like their entire civilization is basically propped up by the suffering of children, which, relatable, but oh my god. So I was thinking, like, is this some sort of like metaphor for like initially, like, is this a metaphor for like America's healthcare system, or like because they refuse, or like they're very xenophobic and they don't want to share their groundbreaking medical technology with anyone out of spite, you know, which is very, very human, unfortunately. And yeah, kid dies. And you know, I not to be callous about it, you know, because you know when the shuttle blew up, or that like cruiser blew up, in my mind I was thinking of that I don't remember what show it was, but it's with that like guy going like, I shot a kid. I don't know if you know what that. I don't even know what that's. I don't even know what that's referencing. It's I shot a kid, and was just going through my brain because I thought it was funny, which is, you know, not defensible, of course. Thankfully, one of the most blessed things about this episode is that they did not force us to watch an awkward sex scene. Thank you. I'm no prude, but but the family who skip sex scenes together stay together, I always say. Because if you watch those with your family, you're a maniac. There's something wrong with you. It's like when my grandpa's watching Game of Thrones in the living room. It's like, Jesus, I'm trying to eat over here. It's awful. You know, can I get a moment of peace for a bit? You know what I mean? What's the deal with airline food?
Every episode this season is PG except one. And we haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay. And is that for drugs and disturbing themes?
Orgies.
Oh, whoa. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that tracks. Are you serious?
But everything else is PG.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh, thank God. Also, why would you say that? That's disgusting.
We're talking about Game of Thrones.
Oh, well, I thought, okay, never mind. All right. I thought he was being serious.
No,
anyway.
It's a darker content episode, a little more violent.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Someone do the double fist punch or
cling through a person.
Anyway, so to this episode, the kid was fine. I think that the premise was overall really interesting, but I feel like it could have been executed better. And maybe this is just my inner preachy Star Trek fan. And even if he didn't end up saving the kid, I'm fine with, because I don't care about children. But I just want to state that was a joke. Don't get upset, parents. All right, this is all right. Anyway, so I wanted a speech. I wanted him to do the people on this planet, do they all know what happens?
Yes, and they like she said, like they don't turn their backs like people do. Like at least we embrace it and we honor the sacrifice. We don't turn a blind eye to the hurting of children. We honor it, and we honor them by acknowledging it.
Yeah, cool. But she's like, she's like, well, you know, is there any poverty in your federation? Well, they don't have money, so no. Like, you know, the Federation is a pretty nice place to be. Now, if you're living out where the Cardis are, the filthy spoonheads, then you'll be, you know, maybe in that area. It's not a great place to live. There is a problem with like living in caves and fighting all the time.
And I think that's all she's saying too. It's like there's a trillion people that are part of the Federation. Can you honestly say not a single child is suffering out of those trillion? Like, you can't make that promise, even though, like, yeah, poverty's been erased and everything like that on Earth, and most Federation planets are good, but you can't promise that every child is fine.
That's true. But, you know, my favorite part of the episode was when Pike just says no.
Yeah.
It's like no.
Yeah.
He just he rejects it. And I'm down with that. Because I just wanted him to, you know, this is my preachiness, but I just wanted him to lecture every single person on this world. And even if they still ended up zapping the kid's brain, he should have just laid down the hammer and been like, this is barbaric. And so zapping the kid's brain is like the only thing keeping their stuff in the clouds. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. So
because the founding fathers,
they didn't write certain rights into the Constitution. Anyway, sorry, we're but
if the founding fathers thought children need to die for this to happen, who are we to question?
Who are we to question what a bunch of old dead guys thought 200 years ago? I mean,
Exactly.
what do we know? And it's always been that way.
Now I agree. Like, kind of waiting for like this just Pike to like explode on her, but you also think him saying no is him saying no to this place is possibly the place that can correct his future, like save him. Like these are the people. So he's not just saying no to her and the civilization. He's saying no. I would rather end up in that chair and not the man I am than to be affiliated with any of this.
True. Because I mean, they could ungulify him.
Yeah,
but it's like these people
at
are
what cost?
Monsters.
Yeah.
And so there's the thing that gets me is there's like this separatist kind of faction that we learn very little about. Initially, they're like, oh, these guys are fanatics. Like, they're totally crazy. But they're just trying to save, kids from getting mind zapped. And they live on this hellish, like, rock planet.
Yeah, they would rather live on this hellish mind planet because they cannot condone what is happening on this paradise world.
I wish we got to talk to them. I wish we got to see them. I wish that they would beam aboard. Like, maybe like they act like lunatics for like half the episode, but maybe they like make contact with them.
I'm guessing they're probably pretty level-headed and they're doing everything they can to just like stop. Like, you got people even on the bodyguards that are like trying to like save this kid and like with the scratch coins and stuff, like they've dedicated their lives to saving the first servant, not letting them die. And they're probably just called fanatics to make the people that are okay with child murder feel better about themselves.
Yeah, no, I think that it's the radicals. The radicals don't want kids to die. The system works, people. Everything's just fine. Star Trek's not political.
We keep your house in the sky.
Yeah, that was I think probably my biggest problem is that I wish there was a bit more of that. The dad character is potentially interesting. He actually cares about his son, and that's the kind of reveal that doesn't work for me because nothing would imply that through the rest of it.
Being a person that's watched this a couple times, I think that's completely intentional because the parents of these first servants, that's how they're supposed to act. Undetached, ready to sacrifice. So he's got to put an air on, especially around the other people, thinking he's totally cool with his son dying. So he's got to play that part of the uncaring dad when in secret he's trying to save him. So it's a face he puts on for the public.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I'll strike that one back then.
I've seen this 3 times. You saw it 5 minutes ago. So that's what I'm here for, Connor.
It was, okay, because I didn't really catch on to that.
Because then once it happens, you do see that veil lift off of him, and he's much sweeter and sad.
Yeah, because he was just like, yeah, this is my son. Unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, I got this little brat, God, women, am I right? Just have to be, birthing all the time. Am I right, guys? And then, the audience starts like clapping.
The Married with Children audience.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this guy's like a deadbeat. But no, okay. So he does care about his son. He just has to pretend not to.
Right.
Because you have to be cool with letting kids get
Gotta
zapped.
be cool with it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought this episode was okay.
Yeah.
But again, wish there was more focus on the separatists. I wish that there was more lecturing. I feel like this episode has the potential to be one of my favorites if it was structured a bit differently and focused on different elements.
Sure.
Like, I don't know, like, instead of the scene where they like find that he's in a milk crate or whatever, if they had, I don't know, if they were talking with the separatists and they're like, hey, let's tell you what's really going on down there because it is freaking crazy. And then of course Anton Mount would go down and be
Anson.
like, yeah,
not his cousin Antoine Mount.
Antoine Montan. And he would Anson.
Mhm.
Anson.
Mhm. Like handsome.
Hanson, the band.
Right.
Yeah, just like Hanson.
Benga. Oh, right.
He would go down on the planet and he's like, lady whose name I forget, is this true? And she'd be like, wow, you just gotta murder the kids. I mean, come on, that's how we keep our sky fortresses from falling to our hell planet. So apparently the surface is all acid and lava.
Mhm.
How long? So again, these are things I wish that they had focused on, because with the death of the kid, the supposed death of the kid, because they don't know that he's gone for cigarettes, she's like, well, our planet's over and it's gonna explode and die and everyone's gonna die and our planet and our cities are gonna fall out of the sky. I'm like, whoa, holy crap. How do you figure that? And then Pike's like, well, how is that gonna happen? How does that work? And she's like, hang up. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, I understand you're upset, woman, but I want exposition. I'm really interested to see what's going on here, but it's more about kind of their personal kind of beef. So good episode, really interesting premise. I like the ending with Mbenga and Mr. Deadbeat. To help with the daughter's condition. I really like that, because I was fairly certain that he was just gonna be like, your daughter's gonna die. She ain't one of us. Scram, kid, get out of here. Your own medical facility. And
he had to act like that even in front of his son, because the problem was his son was totally willing to do this too. So he couldn't even drop the act in front of his kid, or his son might turn him in, because the son wanted this to happen also, unfortunately.
Yeah, because they're all brainwashed. Yeah. And I don't mean to be mean to children, but I think it's not I don't like her. Like, I don't like the actress, but the Dr. Mbenga's daughter, I like her character. The acting is okay. Not very strong in my opinion.
Well, if you look at the track record of the Trek record of child actors, I think she's doing a great job.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. In comparison to "And the Children Shall Lead," this episode's a 10. Like, she's serviceable. She does.
Alternate title for this week's episode: "And the Children Shall Bleed."
That's very good. I was going to say that's terrible. But
it is terrible.
It's I forgive you. I thought it was funny. So yeah, that was what I thought.
Solid 6 for Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach. All right. Well, we will jump into episode 7 then.
Right on.
Titled The Serene Squall.
Is it like a pirate ship?
Oh, you might be onto something, Connor. Let's watch it and find out.
Yo ho!
What'd you call me? Okay, we have returned from watching episode 7, The Serene Squall. Connor just watched it. What'd you think?
I loved it. It's an immediate improvement from the last episode. There's no children ruining everything. No, I thought this episode was actually amazing. I loved it. I guessed it was about pirates, because the Serene Squall sounds like
yes, that was very good. Ship. Very good guess.
Captain Angel, they're amazing. I love this character. They're like, first half of the episode, I'm like, I hope they stay on the show. It's like a cool ship's counselor. And it's like, oh, they're a monster. And I did guess from their first appearance that they were a pirate because they have a face tattoo.
Yes.
And only criminals and hoodlums have tattoos.
Right.
Yeah. I'm calling you out, tattoo havers. All right. You must abstain from sin. I recently became a Jehovah's Witness, so that's now going to influence the programming.
This was awkward, Connor, to let you know that 1 week from today, I'm actually getting my first tattoo. And that's true.
Oh, what is it going to be of?
It's going to be of the drawn Deep Space Nine station from Far Beyond the Stars.
Oh,
Yeah, the one that was the picture that was drawn for
Benny Russell.
Mhm.
Yeah, nice,
And it'll have You Are the Dreamer and the Dream.
That's really cool. Are you getting that on your face?
Yep, right on my face.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get a tattoo, but it's gonna be for the first scene from the Super Mario Brothers movie, where it's a meteor and it just says, "And a giant meteorite struck the Earth."
Let's see if we can get like that together, maybe like package deal.
Exactly, and we have like arrows to align them, like directionally speaking.
Of course.
This is like I'm with stupid kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Oh, the Serene Squall.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Captain Angel, great character. I wanted them to be a counselor, and then I'm like, please God, don't kill them off.
Yeah.
And then they didn't. I'm so glad the writers had the foresight to keep this character around. And of course they're dating freaking Cybok.
Yes.
Which I just thought it would be some random guy, but no, they were literally dating Space Jesus.
So we're setting up that we'll get a potential future episode featuring Captain Angel and Cybok.
That sounds awesome. What do pirates need with a starship?
Everything, Jim.
Jim, you don't ask pirates for their ideas. No, this is great. I loved the Orion captain whose cooking is terrible. I feel like the jokes in this series are very hit or miss for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like Ortegas, but her quips very 50-50. Like the kaboom, I did not find funny. Now, if it was a fart joke, I would have laughed hysterically.
So who has the higher funny one quip ratio for pilots, her or Tom Paris?
Oh no, it's her. No offense to the Robert Duncan McNeil.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yes.
Oh, I always get him confused with the guy who played Kingpin in the Daredevil movie.
Vincent D'Onofrio? Oh no, that's the Kingpin show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, from the Green
Day.
Mile.
From Green Day.
Billy Armstrong.
Yeah, my favorite song from Green Day is "I'm Tired, Boss." So some of the the kaboom did not work for me. However, Pike's cook off was I wish that he had a cooking competition with the Orion beard guy who was very fun, very piratey. But that was great. His throwing a mutiny, convincing the crew to mutiny was really fun. I like the visual where he's piloting the ship and it has a wheel. That's absolutely great. The final gambit with Nurse Chapel and Spock was fantastic. Poor Nurse Chapel. I was like, this is the future. Everyone assumes that monogamy is the standard. It's the future, man. And it's like, look, the wife's away. Maybe you could just have a new temporary love interest. What's so wrong with that? Cheating on your wife is a great American pastime. And the left want to take it from us, folks. Welcome to my soapbox podcast where we don't talk about Star Trek. Anyway, but yeah, you can get canceled for anything now. You can get canceled for cheating on your wife if you could believe it, especially by your wife.
Yeah, she'll cancel you
on Twitter by unfriending you. So anyway, I thought that was really great. I'm so glad Angel is primed for some sort of return.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew they were a pirate because of that face tattoo. And it's so cool. But what self-respecting counselor would have something like that? Think of your employability. I mean, come on.
Nurse Chapel also has tattoos. I don't know if you noticed on
Does
her.
she?
Yeah, on her hands.
Oh, to say love and hate?
Yep. Yeah, her stint.
She has a tattoo on her arm. It's a heart with an arrow through it. It says mama,
Pretty hardcore.
And just teardrops. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I surprisingly don't have a ton to say about it other than this is one of my favorites. It was just so fun. And I think, obviously the show has, its serious episodes and serious moments. But for the most part, it feels very akin to the original series because I think a lot of the fans take Trek way too seriously. Now, obviously, I believe in like the speeches and the monologuing that Star Trek is famous for. That's a big reason why I like Star Trek. Like most of my favorite episodes are like the very serious, like gut wrenching stuff. But I also like Trouble with Tribbles. Like that's also one of my favorite episodes. And Star Trek is camp, and it's dumb. All right, like and it's great. I think a lot of people like I'll see people complain that like Trek has gotten too unrealistic. Have you heard this take? Like the science, like people like nerds, geeks, losers, pointing out that maybe the new Trek show science is not all up to snuff or whatever. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. They can literally teleport people, and they can just create food out of matter, and it mostly tastes like the food it's trying to be like. Like it's not important. Like for those people, I think what they get out of Star Trek is like the cool laser guns and the gun rays and the ship battles, which is all cool. I like that stuff as much as the next guy, but for me, science fiction, it's like the excuse for the story. So, in Trek, they'll just make up, it's like, oh, the ship's about to blow up. Well, if we reroute main power to additional thrusters, and it's nonsense. It's not the point. Yeah. So for me, like here's an episode I'd pitch, like season 2, have them, there's a wormhole they're sucked into, and it sends them in a parallel universe where everyone does basic communication through singing and have it be a musical.
It's gotta happen, right?
Like you have no excuse not to. I mean, unless they can't sing. But I mean, they're a very talented bunch, so I imagine they can.
We're gonna get the musical episode eventually. It's either gonna be Strange New Worlds or Lower Decks. I can't see any other show doing it.
It has to be one of those, because with some of the stuff that they're doing on this show, it seems like a premise of a lower. Like this seems like the premise kind of a Lower Decks. Episode, like of the ship getting like taken over.
Really excited for you to see the premise of the next episode we're watching.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I thought. I thought this was a great episode.
Sometimes the fun ones are harder to talk about because you're just sitting there enjoying it happen.
Yeah. I would recommend if you haven't seen it.
So if you gave lift this up where suffering cannot reach a 6, where would this one fall for?
Honestly, an 8.
Okay.
Very good. Very good.
Fantastic. All right. Well, what say we get off and watch the next on episode 8?
What if we had a sponsor?
What? We're getting paid this week?
Oh, yeah, baby. I'm back. You know what that means? The money's rolling in.
Yes.
It's a short one, but this is a leak. This is welcome to, news.
Yep.
Welcome to Nerd News. All right, Gone Nerdin's back by popular demand. It's the people have spoken and we have listened. But I'm filling in for everyone who was ever on that podcast. I'm like all of them in a teleporter accident. So anyway, this is a leak. This is alleged, but according to my sources, which are very reliable, they've never let me down before because I've never used them before. This is we know a little bit about what's coming up in season 2, episode 1.
Oh,
it's called. We had Spock Amok, right?
Yep.
Well, this is kind of in a similar vein. It's called Pork Amork.
Okay. Pork Amork.
Pork Amork. So this is we got some leaked audio from like the like next time, like that kind of thing.
Right.
So
an all new Star Trek, Strange New Worlds.
Pork Amork, season 2, episode 1. After a tragic shuttle accident, Pike crash lands on the planet of the babes.
Written by Rick Berman. Who could have seen that one coming?
He's back, baby.
Yeah, so that's all we know. Now it's time to endlessly speculate for 50 minutes about what this means for the franchise.
Now I really don't like the title of this episode. Now that I know the premise. Not even Pike and Mike.
No, well, you know, hey, the heart wants what the heart wants, and
Fair
Rick
enough.
Berman wanted to name it Pike and Mike.
Okay, well, it's going to be interesting to see how they tie up everything from season 1 in this Babe Island season premiere.
Yeah, it actually, fans speculate that this is going to lead to a season-wide arc where it's like The Bachelor, but less fictional. That was a pun. That was not a pun. That was a joke.
There you go.
Sorry. All right, what's the next one called?
All right, episode 8 is titled The Elysian Kingdom.
Cool.
Let's watch.
All right.
All right, we are back after watching episode 8, The Elysian Kingdom, and this being the third time I've seen it, I still leave it with tears in my eyes. So, Connor.
It was brutal. It's the damnedest thing. I thought I was ready for this. I was just going to be like, oh, this was an insanely fun episode. But the ending, oh, God, man. Oh. So, this is, you know what? No, it's my favorite episode. It is my favorite episode of the show.
Wow.
I'm like, I have a great record. At the beginning, I was like, I think there's going to be an anomaly that like transforms or like sends them to a realm. I didn't realize it'd be the ship, but I was like, it's going to like create it like Q.
Yeah.
Like one of Q's like kind of fantasy world things. And it's going to be like from the book, but it's, the Enterprise. And this is my favorite episode. I'm going to say it.
That's awesome.
So many things work in this one. The costumes. I guess I'm stepping on Jocelyn's toes here in talking about the fashion corner.
Well, we had Jocelyn on the entire episode for this one because of how amazing the fashion was.
Okay. Well, now I don't feel guilty about it. But the outfits are absolutely amazing for every character, for every extra. Just like the reimagining of all the sets from like the bridge to being like a throne room. It all looks amazing. This sounds like the coolest kids book that's never existed.
Oh, Connor, a little Easter egg. I don't know if you caught the author of this book.
I did not.
The Elysian Kingdom was written by Benny Russell.
Are you serious?
Yes.
No way. Oh, all right. All right. I did not catch that. Are you?
I didn't catch that the first time either.
You're not goofing me? You're not gaffing?
Nope.
Okay. Holy crap. Wow. I quite like that. That's really cool. So, and oh my God. So all the actors really get to flex their muscles here by playing, except for, I guess, Ortega's is great, but like her actress is playing a very similar character, but basically everyone else is playing like a polar opposite character. So we get to see like a Chris Angel Spock who's about to like mind freak everybody. I was expecting him to like throw like cards, like that's his magic power or whatever. Seeing a sniveling, pathetic Pike is something I didn't know I needed to see. But he just plays this like pathetic bootlick, and I absolutely love it. Like this little spit. What is it?
Is that an expression?
It's like an wait. Let me look this up real quick. Never mind. I shouldn't. It's like a coward, basically.
Yeah,
like a bootlicker. You can cut this part.
Sure.
Anyway, so I'll remember what I was going to say later. So, but he's this, like kind of sniveling politician who backstabs them. I like number one is like this cool, like badass huntress character. The twist that it's not Dr. Mbenga, who is the dreamer and the dream, and in fact, it's his daughter, is very clever. And I was not prepared for that ending. It's kind of it is a happy ending, but it's also like, oh, this
Very
is
bittersweet.
Yeah, because I mean, 5 seconds later, she comes back and she's like 30 years older, and she's like, "Yo, pops, you did the right thing. Great job. Pat yourself on the back. Be happy. Just be happy. Promise to be happy. Put a smile on your face. I'm like, dude, he's lost you like 3 seconds ago. Give the man some time." But that was a real powerhouse scene. You know what? I take back the incendiary comments I made about the girl's acting ability. She does a great job in this episode. I thought no, I might argue. I love how this went, but I would argue that maybe this would have been a more emotional if she didn't come back.
Yes, we had that that conversation on the podcast too.
Okay.
Most people agreed. Like Jordan agreed with you too. Like it might have been better just not knowing. My only argument was, and I brought up Oliver, and it's just like, you make this decision that is so hard
with
to
the
make.
Minnesota thing?
Yep.
Ah.
Yeah. But with the thought of this is going to be the better thing for that person, as much as it kills you to do it, and to have that come back and say like you did the right thing, like for what we've gone through, like it's something that hits me really hard just hearing that you made the right choice and you did the right thing instead of having him live with each week. Did I make the right choice or not? I'm personally glad that Mbenga is let known that he did make the right choice.
Oh, well, I didn't really think about it from that perspective. No, I get you. Maybe it's just because I like super depressing dour things.
Absolutely. And like storytelling wise, I totally get that. Just a very specific personal reason is why I'm glad it went that way.
I think that's pretty valid. Yeah, no, I get that. Let's see. Oh my God, I wish this was a real book.
Yeah,
I would love this now.
Yeah,
this seems awesome. Especially like as a kid, this would have been like the coolest thing ever. So I also really liked Ahura as I'm forgetting the name of, is it Maeve or something?
I think it was like Queen Maeve or Queen Knave or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. She's absolutely fantastic as the evil kind of
so
queen. Like everyone is hamming it up, and I absolutely love it. Like everyone's chewing the scenery. Hammer.
So good.
Is so great, and I'm so glad that he was a prominent character in this episode, playing like, I don't know, the White Wizard or something, whatever his character is supposed to be, who's brother to Chris Angel Spock.
Yeah.
So that's, like this again would be a great story. Please, Paramount, turn this into a real kids book. I would read it now. But he has so many great lines in this. It's like, I'm going to use some magic called science or something like that. All of his lines about science and stuff is really funny. So I thought this was just an absolutely phenomenal episode, and this is basically what I want out of Star Trek. Like I have two moods for Star Trek: insane, funny premises, and like emotionally destructive, like like powerful gut punch stories.
Hey, this one gave you both.
This one managed to pull off both. This is like if in Trouble, the Trouble with Tribbles, like Kirk's mom died or something.
Right.
Last
10 minutes, yeah.
And then we had this, like, like she got hit by a space car or something. We just have to deal with that. And it's dealt with well, but it's like, whoa, I wasn't ready for this. So I absolutely love this episode. I have so much to say, but it's difficult to get all the old thoughts together in the brain because this is like that was just such a great piece of fiction. I'm excited for the next one. I'm sure it'll keep up the nice, jaunty, fun pace that we've established with this one.
Yeah, which is the penultimate episode of season 1. We're almost there.
Okay. And pray tell, what is that episode called?
Connor, the name of this episode is All Those Who Wander.
Is the next episode after that called Not Lost?
We'll see. But I thought you of all people would appreciate that title. No one else on the podcast did but me.
Oh, because they're not Tolkien fans?
Yeah.
See, I know things.
Yeah. I'm glad you get it.
Yeah, now we're going to sing songs from the Lord of the Rings books for an hour. So everyone just skip to the time code ahead, So then someone skips like 15 minutes or 15 minutes or 15 seconds away, and it's like the road goes ever on and on, down from the road where it
began and goes.
Anyway, yeah.
And then they'll skip another 30 seconds and we're doing Aragorn's coronation speech song.
Yeah. We'll just be doing the dwarf song, the Misty Mountains one. Anyway.
All right. Are you ready to watch all those?
As ready as I am to incessantly talk about Lord of the Rings.
All right. We'll be back. Okay. We are back from watching the whimsical All Those Who Wander.
Yeah. What a fun time. I
Cut that voice crack. We're doing it live.
Anyway, so that was an experience. I watched most of this with a pillow in front of my face.
Yes.
I'll be real with you. I kept an eye out.
I was nervous about this because, horror is not your favorite genre.
No, but I do watch a lot of horror movies, surprisingly. Like, I love, The Thing, and that movie terrifies me. And I also love the Aliens 1 and 2, and of course, 3. My favorite.
Mine's Alien Resurrection.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that was a thing. But and of course, Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello. Another, so I do watch my fair share of scary movies. However, when I do it, I typically have the lights on, and it's in broad daylight outside.
Gotcha.
It's easier for me that way. Now this wasn't as scary.
Yeah.
Which is good because I don't really deal with that very well. I'm a hypocrite. You can point that out, fine, but I just don't. Horror is, to me, it's like spicy food. Mm-hmm. I get the appeal, but I don't like being afraid in my free time, and I also don't like crying when I'm eating food.
Fair.
Or crying when it's coming out. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a poop joke for those at home.
Wow, they got it.
Let me explain further. So, very brutal. Let's cut to the chase, folks. They killed Hammer.
Yeah,
I am displeased by this. Good death and all. Not really. That's a rough going. He impales himself like Saruman in that random water wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what our audience is here for, Lord of the Rings discussion. But the poor man gets impregnated by lizards, and he dies. It's a very sad way to go. I have mixed feelings about it. It's like, oh, this is motivation to keep Uhura in Starfleet. Okay, I think a pep talk would have sufficed. They didn't have to kill the best character on the show. He was so great in the last one. Hemmer is a keeper.
Yeah.
They could have killed Sam Kirk. Who even is that guy? I mean,
Canon be damned.
When did he? What happens to Sam?
He dies in the season 1 finale of the original series.
Oh, does he? I haven't seen that.
I think we cover that in our episode Flesh Pancakes.
I'm sorry. Is that actually the name of the episode?
Of our episode of the Star Trek Wars coverage.
I figured.
The episode is called Operation
Annihilate.
Yeah.
Annihilate. Operation Annihilate. What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I have to watch that then. I have not seen that in years because I I thought this character was an invention of this show.
Now you get to see this character, the dead version of this character in that episode, played by a mustached William Shatner. That alone is worth watching.
Well, you know it is.
Yeah.
I
know how that be.
The Gorn be. So the Gorn, man, they have gone from like, I don't know if this is like bringing in canon from like books or something about the Gorn, or they're just making their own kind of new, stuff for the Gorn. Mm-hmm. But they went, in my mind, from like the funny guys to the, oh my sweet Jesus, they're monsters, and not just like a dude in a rubber suit, like it's a big monster man. Like, no, they're like a species of monsters who eat each other and are awful parasites, like kids, but more destructive. So I appreciate the lack of jump scares. Mm-hmm. That's a genuine pro, not just because I dislike horror, generally, like personally speaking. It's also just because I find that to be the lamest kind of horror. Like, I'll give you an example. My favorite Exorcist movie is The Exorcist 3.
The Heretic?
The Heretic. I'm not joking. It's my
Never
favorite.
seen it.
It's really good. I actually quite like it. The director's cut.
Of course.
I don't care for the theatrical release very much because they did a lot of reshoots. Anyway, but that movie is mainly like a psychological kind of deal. Like, there is some, like there is demon stuff in there, of course, but it's less like Exorcist 1 and 2 with, I am Pazuzu kind of stuff. It's mainly just dealing with George C. Scott's character, who just has no faith in humanity anymore. And his best friend, who he has a lot of scenes with, is a priest. And the priest is always like, things will always work out. It's all in God's infinite plan. And there's a scene where George C. Scott just like destroys his entire like worldview about like joy with a single awful anecdote about his job. So it's a really interesting, very underrated movie and one of George C. Scott's best performances. So I'm bringing that up because it's my favorite one, and it doesn't have a ton of like horror. It also has the guy who plays Grima Wormtongue in it.
Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif, yeah. And he plays Legion.
Mm-hmm. And Lon Suitor.
Yes. So, great film. Anyway, so that's, I appreciate the lack of jump scares. It's a great tangent. So, otherwise, I think oh my God, I can't speak. One of the things I really like about new Trek shows, I brought this up before, is the planets. Mm-hmm. Especially not knocking the original series, like how dare you be cheap in the 60s. But I watched Squire of Gothos recently, and I love the sets in that. But like the sky, for example, like the background is just like it's just like a purple or pink screen, right? Basically, and even when they upgraded in the Next Generation, it's like every single planet is like rocks, and there's mist and like a purple kind of like purple screen.
Yeah.
And that's like the big budget of Next Gen. But with the new shows, like the planets all are incredibly unique and really well designed. I quite liked this one. Oh man. So I thought it was quite good. Wish they didn't kill off Hemmer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't have a ton to say, I suppose.
It's probably my least favorite episode of the season. And a lot of that had to do with how they handled Hemmer. In my review, it made me feel not as much sad, but angry with how they handled that. Yeah,
because I wasn't I'm fine with people killing off major characters, because that's one of the reasons I love Frasier, because Frasier dies in the second episode in a car crash. Spoilers, sorry. But no, yeah, like I felt like I'm fine if they killed off Hemmer in a few even like the next season, but like we've had so little time with this character. It's like if they killed off, most of the characters come back, and at least the first episode of the original series. But if they just killed off like, I don't know, like another side character, like that's, I think it's not, I don't think it's cool. There are some people who believe that all characters should be killed off ceremoniously. I don't feel that way, but I wish we had more time with this character.
Yeah.
Because he was just so great. And I'm not like, I felt so torn up inside at the last episode, Kingdom of Elysia or whatever it was called.
Yeah. The Elysian Kingdom.
The Elysian Kingdom. But this one didn't really get me. I'm sad that he's gone.
Yeah.
But it's not like, oh, the character's dead. It's like, oh, that poor actor.
Well,
put him in more stuff.
The saving grace and the good news about this is they have alluded to the fact that Bruce Horrick will return in some capacity in Star Trek, the guy who plays Hemmer. And the other thing that saved it, when they hired Bruce Horrick to play Hemmer, he knew this outcome. They basically created this character to give us more of a impact to deaths in this episode. So when he was hired this season, he knew going in that Hemmer was going to die here. The producers didn't realize just how big of an impact I think Hemmer was going to have on the community. They wanted someone more than just the Duke, you know.
Oh, dude, R.I.P. the Duke.
So they knew they had the Duke, and they're like, maybe we should sprinkle someone else in throughout the season to give this a little bit more like weight. So they created Hemmer and hired Bruce Horrick, and I don't think they ever thought the people would have the connection that they ended up having with him. But he will return as an actor.
Okay. And they are resurrecting him like every other major character in Star Trek.
No, I don't think he's coming back as Hemmer, but as an actor, Bruce Horrick said he's not done in Star Trek.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. But I mean, look, every other character's come back from the dead. Why not him?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's cheap, but at least Hemmer would be back, I guess.
Yeah, but he's like Frankenstein stitched together.
Yeah.
He's like, I actually survived, and you know, the good nurse Chapel done patched me up, and you know, and my niece done got bit by a copperhead, and then he starts telling charming anecdotes about his time.
Like, I don't like this Hemmer anymore.
On Andoria.
So speaking of Chapel, what do you think about Spock in this one?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I thought that was quite interesting. I know that there are some mega geeks, as we like to bully nerds on this podcast. You know, we're all jocks here. But
hell yeah.
There's a vocal group of people who feel like Spock should just be the same character that he is in like the original series. And so when they'll see like Spock smashes up a panel because you know Spock smash and all that.
Does like wearing smocks.
Spock's smocks.
Season 2.
Season 2, Spock's smocks. Good God. So, you know, he smashes up a panel because he's angry, and there will be people who are like, "That's not my Spock. Spock would never act that way." Or like a character will quip and he'll say like, "Indeed," they're like, "Spock would not respond that way. Spock would literally say, 'Speak proper English and explain to me again.'"
Yeah, because he never gave off sass in the original series.
No, never. I mean, oh my God, the things that Sam Kirk was saying to him pales in comparison to the brutal racism of Dr. Leonard McCoy. He called him a hobgoblin.
One of his closest friends.
Well, he has a pass. He has a H-word pass. He's got a hobgoblin pass. But yeah, like I feel that is such a boring, myopic view about like the character. Because Spock does all kinds of crazy stuff in the original series.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine what is the episode? This Side of Paradise, where a plant like blows spores in his face, and he's like happy and you know, join us, Jim. That whole thing. If that episode, let's say this was switched with that episode, and we had a cheesy '60s version of this, and we had an episode about you know Spock, you know, finding joviality because a spore infected his brain. People would be upset that Spock was acting like that, even with the spore, because that's not Spock, right? So it doesn't really matter what you do with the character. There will always be a group of people who will always be mad. And I think this is a really interesting take on the character. So the character, who plays Spock in this again?
Ethan Peck.
Ethan Peck, does such a fine job as Spock. His performance has really grown on me, and I think he does a fantastic job. And so with that scene where like Nurse Chapel hugs him and stuff, I think was a pretty good highlight of the episode. Spock got angry, and Vulcan smash and all that, and he's fighting to contain that. Because Vulcans are, they're a ball of emotions. And like any ball of emotions, I advise anyone in our audience to just, if you got feelings, stuff them up deep inside, like Vulcans do. See how it works out for you. I'm sure you'll find fulfillment and joy. For legal purposes, I must state that I am not a psychiatrist, and you should not follow my advice. But I am not legally responsible. But Star Trek Wars is, so feel free to sue the podcast. Just don't come after me.
Oh yeah, we got money set aside for all that.
Oh yeah, we're rich people. We're rich people now. So I thought overall it was okay, but I'm gonna agree with you. I think this is probably the weakest episode. It's not bad, but it's not really kind of my cup of tea Star Trek wise. And I like Star Trek horror episodes. I'm forgetting the name of it, but the episode where there's one bridge, one Enterprise, where silence has lease. One of my favorite episodes of Star Trek in period. That is a scary episode with a kind of a creepy antagonist, but it's mainly the atmosphere. And the atmosphere isn't like what, was like, ooh, spooky. It's like the little gremlins running about. And even those weren't particularly super scary, which is fine. Fine by me. I'm not arguing they should have made them scarier. But for me, a good Star Trek horror story has to be like, it has to let the atmosphere carry the horror. So, like Impact Noir, where the Cardassian super soldiers come out of the walls. Like, not a super scary episode because of who the murderers are, but certainly the atmosphere of it is pretty oppressive and
especially
brutal.
when Garrick starts going evil and starts to hunt everybody down.
Oh yeah, like it. To me, those are far more effective. The only reason I held a pillow in front of my face is because I was expecting jump scares.
Yeah.
Which thankfully didn't happen. But otherwise,
it'd be an easier rewatch.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a special when we just watch all the scary episodes of Trek, like a Star Trek Wars.
A Star Trek Wars?
Star Trek Horrors.
Horrors. Yeah, that's okay. Yes. It's good. We have
for
to
Halloween.
clarify.
Is anything else happening on Halloween?
Not
Nothing
that
else.
I can think
Okay.
of. Yeah, nothing important, I'm sure. If it was important, we'd remember every year for the past 19, almost 20 years, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I feel like something happens on Halloween besides trick-or-treaters, but it'll come to me.
I think it has something to do with like cake or something. I don't know. Like the rapid approach of age and oblivion. Like I have no clue. Well, I'm sure we'll remember later.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this episode is probably going to be the lowest rank for me.
What'd you give it?
I'd give it like a 5.
Okay.
It is well acted. There's a lot of stuff I did like in it.
What'd you think about La'an and her leaving?
I quite like that. I thought it was mainly because was it a pep talk that Dr. Mbega gave her about being a light for oregano or whatever that kid's name is.
Yeah.
Lizard Lady, Gorn Girl. That's a great Affleck movie. Gorn Girl.
Yeah.
So I quite liked all that.
I did too.
I think I would enjoy this episode more if Hemmer didn't die. I'm real
absolutely.
with you. I think this would have worked. It still would be lower ranked. I think it would probably just be a 6. A 5 is not bad. Like, this is a very watchable episode. I just think it's a little disappointing.
Agreed. All right. Well, speaking of disappointment, are you ready to watch the season finale?
Really, way to temper my expectations. I'm so excited.
One episode to go.
All right.
Season finale of Strange New Worlds. Last new episode for a year.
Oh.
You ready?
I was born ready and born pregnant.
They're bisexual, Jim. Means they're born pregnant.
Seems to be quite a time saver. All right. The season finale called A Quality of Mercy.
A Quality of Mercy?
A Quality of Mercy.
Oh.
Let's go watch it.
Right on.
Okay, we are back from watching the season finale, A Quality of Mercy. Connor.
You treacherous son of a gun. I mentioned that I watch Balance of Terror quite frequently.
Oh, it was so difficult not saying anything. But I can't tell you how happy that made me when you mentioned that episode.
This was shocking. I love this. So especially coming off the heels of watching actually a few days ago, Balance of Terror.
Oh, nice.
So I guess we'll talk about Kirk. That was something I was not expecting. But I imagine that caused quite the kerfuffle.
Kirkfuffle?
The Kirkfuffle, if you will. Because either people think it's like shameless pandering, which to me it's not. I have a lot of problem with like, cameo legacy stuff.
Yeah.
But this, it's done very well. I imagine a lot of other people are mad that, he doesn't sound like Kirk. And that's for the best, in my opinion. So I really like Kirk in this episode. I think that Jim Carrey or whoever's playing Kirk in this... Sorry, I'm just saying this actor is one bad day away from saying "smoking" every conversation he has.
He's played by Paul Wesley from the CW.
Oh, he was on Vampire Diaries.
That's it.
No way. That's Stefan, right? That's Stefan from the Vampire Diaries.
I knew he was in the Vampire Diaries.
Yes.
Connor, I don't know anything about Vampire Diaries. Have you seen Vampire Diaries?
Well, we don't need to.
That sounds way too new for something for you to watch.
What do you mean, like 10? Oh yeah. Oh, like Hey, all right, where?
Okay, hold up. You've watched Vampire Diaries? This is a safe place. Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the only person
CW shows.
that's ever seen him outside of Strange New Worlds, and so
yeah,
you know this guy.
Yeah, I believe he plays. Yeah, it's Stefan, right? Yeah, he's the boring one on Vampire Diaries, which is one of my favorite shows. It's one of the worst
groundbreaking
things I've ever seen. He's a fine actor. I did not recognize him, but so Vampire Diaries is like Twilight, but there are two Edwards, but one of them's a bad boy, and that I'm forgetting the name of his brother. Pardon me,
Sam Kirk.
Yes, on the Vampire Diaries, but he's like the bad boy vampire who doesn't play by the rules. It's a terrible show, and I love it. I'm obsessed with it. It's on the CW, of course, and so like every CW show, it meanders past the point of tedium into absurdity, because it's one of those. For me, when I watch something that's so bad it's good, I prefer, like, I have a spectrum in terms of stuff I enjoy, and that can be like things that are genuinely good. So let's take like Next Gen, Star Trek Next Generation, something I genuinely enjoy. Unironically, I love it. And then you even have like camp that I genuinely enjoy, like Rocky Horror Picture Show or Adam West Batman. Then there's camp that's bad, but I love it because it's camp. So like B movies, right?
Yeah.
This CW shows are at like the very bottom, like the worst of the worst trash. Like I rate them up there with like 16 and Pregnant. Because it is phenomenal. Like every single one of these shows, we're talking about Vampire Diaries. I don't know why, but it will go back to Star Trek in a bit. One of my favorite episodes of Trek I've ever seen.
This is insightful to me because I didn't know Vampire Diaries people exist. Like,
the main character, Elena, who is like
You know the character names.
she's like Bella, but imagine if Bella was less interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah. I like Caroline, the blonde friend who turns into a vampire, and she's the only character who turns into a vampire and stays a vampire the whole series. Because every character is like, oh, I'm a human, then I'm a werewolf, then I'm a vampire, then I die and I'm a ghost, and everyone comes back except the characters who don't.
It's like me in Skyrim. I can't decide what faction I want to be.
I know. How long? Like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I first played the game when I was 9. If I just want to make our audience and you specifically feel terrible. So, yeah, it's trash, and I would highly recommend it.
Okay, but Paul Wesley, from there to this.
I'm so happy now. Thank you for telling me that. My life has
Thank you.
has been changed. You're welcome. If only the rest of the world could hear my Vampire Diaries insights.
If only there were more brave people out there that would come forward and and tell the world that they've seen Vampire
If only more
Diaries.
people would come out of the coffin with me
Yeah.
and admit they like Vampire Diaries. So anyway, Star Trek.
Yeah, the finale.
Yeah. So I quite like not Jim Carrey as Kirk. And it's not only does he do a good job, I think it's primarily because of the things he doesn't do. And namely, he's not going like, James, Kirk, the middle name's Tiberius. You know, it's like he's not doing a stupid, like cheesy impression.
Yeah.
Because even if it was like a decent William Shatner impression, it's not Kirk.
Yeah.
It's William Shatner.
It's Shatner.
Because that's what people do when they do Kirk impressions. You're doing an impression of the Shat.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are mad that they didn't get why is my brain like this today? Who plays Captain Kirk? What is
Paul
happening?
Wesley.
William
Shatner.
William Shatner. What is happening to my brain? I have no clue. It's probably because I've been binge watching like 5 hours of television. This is what happened on the old podcast days when we'd watch 5 episodes of Trek and then record a 3-hour podcast that went to 1 a.m. So I apologize. William Shatner. Good God. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are mad that they didn't get the Shat in the studio and, like digitally de-age him and then like compress his like digital body back into 60s shape, you know? But I'm really glad that he just gave an actual just performance. To me that was Kirk. And especially with the writing really came through that was the character. So, paralleling this with Balance of Terror is quite good. Obviously, I prefer Balance of Terror to this. Not that this is bad. I think this is actually quite clever. In the same way that like probably my favorite Discovery moment is with Pike. I think Pike's my favorite part of Discovery.
Oh yeah.
It's with that episode that deals with the man. Not the man trap. It's the cage.
Oh yes, if memory serves.
Last episode I was on, I called the first episode of Trek the man trap, and that was a horrible, foul error, and I am so sorry. I'm so sorry to everyone who
they
I
had
offended.
Like 4 first episodes really for Star Trek.
Oh, that's fair. I take it back. All right. No one pointed it out, so it did not happen. All right. We're doing some CIA like black ink all over that whole operation. But in Discovery they harken back to the cage, and I thought that was really cool. And so now we're going back to Balance of Terror and kind of like an alternate history what if scenario. Which is the Romulans just invade the Federation because they think that they're weak, and it's pretty brutal. I think because it seems like it's going well, like they're making headway with the cool commander guy, and the second in command who does not look like Coach from Cheers with like purple makeup on his eyes. It's a different guy with a beard who probably watches a lot of anime by the looks of him, as the Romulans do, because they're villains. And, so it's a different guy from the original. They're both like different characters, but they pair at a lot of same points. And he calls for backup without his commanding officers call, and the Romulans are set to invade the galaxy. And it's, literally 5 seconds before the Romulan fleet showed up, I had this thing in my brain like, okay, where is this going to go wrong, though? And then, this entire fleet pops up. I was expecting Kirk to die. Actually.
Yeah, same. A couple times.
I was expecting him to sacrifice himself or to get blown up or to die on the Farragut. I'm fine that didn't happen, but, that would have been pretty crazy. Speaking of crazy, the good God. So the Federation is sending a woman who has been a loyal officer to essentially like a penal colony, which, I mean, it's not like Aurora Pente level like hell, but I imagine it's still intensely unpleasant.
Yeah, the fact that she's been there for 7 years then at this point, so he's got to do something to change that, because he didn't change that in the future we saw.
Yeah, and so that was pretty rough. I want to commend the costume designers on the Romulans, because I am not one of those people who is put off by old, like something looking old.
Mm-hmm.
Like when people's like, I would like to play like Morrowind, but I can't because the game is so hideous. I'm like, well, that's not really the point of it. It's not. That's not the point of the experience. Is not the visuals, as distinct and interesting as they are, say, in that game. That's not really the point. The point is more of the world itself and the exploration and building your character. And in Star Trek and in older media in general, I'm not put off by like the Gorn costume, because I have this ability to, immerse myself into an experience. Now, if a shot looks bad, it looks bad. Like the shot where the guy in Outpost 4 gets like blown up and like sucked out into space. It looks terrible. But the next shot looks great with the rubble, in front of the Enterprise. Like, it looks really good. But that particular shot didn't look so good.
Yeah.
So that I'm not overlooking things, but if it's like it's from the 60s, like, what do you want? So that does not bother me at all. But in the original, like the Romulans are all wearing like these the great Gazoo helmets.
Yeah,
that's a joke for today's youth. They'll love that one. And they all have the funny, purple like makeup, which I'm sure is like, because black and white television. It's to make them look more distinctive.
Speaking of fashion, Connor, I think I have a clip of you talking about this episode.
Jesus, no.
Just give me a second here. Let me see if I can.
Yeah,
the Romulan commander is not happy with the orders that he has to be doing this, and he's got his little sidekick, his number one, and they seem to be really close.
You can tell that they're like the commanding officers because they don't have to wear those dumb banana hats.
So that's what you're saying, right?
You know who's dumb? You. Those don't look like bananas, moron. Oh my God. You treacherous little man.
You adorable little kid.
I was adorable in my day, but oh God. It's weird hearing a recording of myself when I did not sound like this.
Do you know what that you gave Balance of Terror?
No.
A 7.
Are you for real?
7 Romulan George Clooney birds.
What? What was wrong with me?
You know what? In that same episode, you gave Deep Space Nine's If Wishes Were Horses.
No.
9 scantily clad women.
Are you serious?
Yep.
No, a 9?
And I'm here to tell you, to change the past, you have to go back.
I'm going back in time to rewrite the past. Can I posthumously give that like a 3? Why did I give it a 9?
Unclear.
Is that the episode?
Like of the scantily clad women.
Is that the episode where you're asking me questions and I just say so and so's a phony jabroni? Is it that?
Oh man,
one?
that was a whole year. It's hard. It's hard to say.
I just want to apologize to everyone who's ever listened to seasons 1 through 3 of this podcast. You know what? It was a different time. and I ask that you look into your souls, and I appeal to the angels of your better nature to forgive me for being cringe when I was like 13. Is that how I sounded when I was 13?
You were 11 at that point. That was season 1. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my God, a 7. Nah, this episode's an easy 9. Very good. Oh, for Balance of Terror.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so. He trades his life for Spock's, and that's what will happen. And also apparently two of them, their kids. I wish that the end scene was him going to that kid who he just like walked away from, and he's like, "Sorry about that. Tell me about yourself."
Oh yeah, because that still kind of that poor kid. It's like he was like, there just to meet Pike.
Never meet your heroes, dude.
Yeah. He's like, I'm a big fan, and Pike was just like, if you'll excuse me.
Your son is so cringe that I'm literally going to change the future so he dies.
Yeah, he needs to go back and make amends, or that kid won't enter Starfleet just from that.
Right?
Meeting.
I was a little disappointed that wasn't
That's fair.
The final scene. That poor guy, So otherwise, though, I liked all the allusions to Balance of Terror, mainly with the. We see the Romulans, and then it zooms to Spock doing the eyebrow raise. Very fantastic. I'm forgetting the name of racist McDouchebag, but Ortega Styles, thank you. And he's like, Mr. Styles, keep your bigotry off my bridge. Oh, which was one of my favorite scenes from the original series, because like that's Star Trek right there. And Ortega's isn't like outwardly like racist, but she does make some pretty like oof comments at Spock's direction, like he's maybe hiding something. So there's a lot of like good parallels, and I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Look forward to the second season. I look forward to Captain Pike crash landing on the planet of the babes, which is happening. Yeah. And if it doesn't happen, the series is canceled.
He's on his way to free Una and do like a great courtroom drama episode of Star Trek.
Yes.
But gets detoured when he has to crash land into the planet of the babes.
And that's where number 1 actually is. That's where they're holding her on the penal colony, where they all have to do calendar shoots for Rick Berman, and they all have to wear skimpy outfits that like make them collapse off set. So that's what I thought of this episode and of the next episode of season 2, episode 1.
All right, so what would you end up giving A Quality of Mercy?
I would give it an 8.
Okay.
I think it's really solid. I think Balance of Terror is better. I think that this episode suffers if you haven't seen Balance of Terror.
You gave Balance of Terror a 7, so it sounds like you think this is better.
I gave this a 9. I gave Balance of Terror a 9. Posthumously, that's what it always had. I went back in time and shook some sense into younger me. If witches were horses got a 9, I refuse to believe that. Like it was a different time, folks.
It was truly a different time.
Before we developed taste. So that's a 3.
Listeners.
Balance of Terror is a 9. This episode's an 8.
Okay.
Because I think this episode really suffers if you haven't seen Balance of Terror. Not like terribly, but I feel like it won't have the same impact on you, because I'm going, oh shit, like every like 3 seconds. But if you haven't seen Balance of Terror, I don't think it would have a very
someone would just
impact.
be like looking at you like, am I missing something? Nothing's happening.
Yeah. So
the commander was just like, we could have been friends in another life. Well, I don't understand why you're freaking out about it.
Yeah, because that whole thing that he says in the original series episode is so impactful. And here I liked it because, it's a great line and really impactful. But it doesn't have the same impact that it does in the original series episode. So again, not as good if you haven't seen Balance of Terror. And if you haven't, please watch it.
All right, Connor, we are through season 1. What'd you think?
Overall, I thought it was so fantastic. I think the only 2 ones that I like, and the ones I didn't like very much, like in comparison to the other episodes, like a 5 and a 6.
Yeah.
That's considering the other first seasons of Star Trek, that is very high praise. So, with Strange New Worlds, I'm so looking forward to many more seasons of this. Like, this is a return to form of what I want from Star Trek, with some of the aspects that I quite like about Deep Space Nine and some of the newer shows. Mainly like continuity, like the characters do adapt and grow and things do matter. But we also aren't held down by some sort of long seasonal arc. And every episode gets to do something different. And it's refreshing not to have a save the galaxy plot. So that's like my biggest problem with Picard and with Discovery. It's always galaxy ending threats that only our protagonists can solve. And I feel like we're really getting back to some Trek roots. And I really, really like that. So overall, I like this far more than Picard and Discovery. To be real with you, Chief.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. We always keep it real here on Star Trek Wars.
Mad respect, bro.
Yeah. Farvey.
Awesome. Thanks once again for doing this with me, Connor.
Oh yeah. Sure. We've got plenty of things on the horizon. Are we dropping, or are we just teasing?
We are moments away from dropping that.
Oh, snap. Folks, we got some big news.
Big news. That will do it for this week, but it won't do it for Star Trek Wars. Lower Decks just announced that it will be returning for its third season on August 25th. So Chelsea and I will be back for that. But we also have some fun stuff to keep you entertained between now and then. Next weekend, we're having a Strange New World Season 1 Roundtable for you guys over on Patreon, led by James King. And 2 weeks after that on Patreon, Chelsea and I will be doing the United Trilogy of Enterprise for the Patreon show. But in between then, we have a brand new show, not even Connor related, that will be dropping in on this feed, featuring not me related either. Here's a trailer for it. Sci-fi, the final genre. These are the episodes of a Star Trek Wars spin-off. Boldly going where no podcast.
Easy to follow movie called Blue Velvet by David Lynch.
Going boldly where no pod.
Story, and it's called The Yellow Wall.
To boldly.
Oh my God, Emily in Paris.
Lily Allen is British.
What's going on here?
I've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show. Let's do that.
Have you guys seen my Elton John tattoo?
But I love makeup. I love makeup tutorials.
What is happening?
Welcome to a Star Trek Wars spinoff that boldly goes wherever the hell we want it to.
We love Star Trek, but there's a galaxy of other shows waiting to be explored. Can we also do books?
Yeah.
I've got a short story, actually, that's amazing.
I mean, we can do whatever the hell we want.
I don't know if I can condone this.
Don't worry, babe. It's out of your hands now.
So what are you going to call it?
Star Trek Wars.
Star Trek Horrors?
Oh,
nuh-uh.
dude.
Mm-mm.
Get out of
No.
here.
No.
Don't like it coming out of your mouth.
Disgusting.
That's right. We're getting 2 episodes between now and the premiere of Lower Decks of Star Trek Whores.
Is that what it's actually called?
That's what it's actually called. It's written and created by Chelsea, Lita, and Jocelyn, who named it too. They named it too.
Oh, I'm glad that this isn't like a weird kind of scenario where it's like, here's an idea for you guys.
No. This is all them.
Okay.
It's going to be them doing a bunch of non-Star Trek topics, but it'll be our 3 women of Star Trek Wars talking. And so you can look forward to the first episode of that in 2 weeks, and then second episode a couple weeks before the Lower Decks premiere. So we got a ton of stuff happening.
We do.
But Connor.
There's more reveals for spinoffs.
That's right. That's it for Star Trek Wars content. But Connor, would you like to let the listeners in on what you and I are working on?
So, folks, long have we, in our dark study, long have we brainstormed an idea for a new podcast. You know, we've had a lot of ideas. Maybe go back to well, not directly, but in the spirit of Gone Nerd, and maybe do something like that, or maybe do a podcast where we just vape into the microphone for an hour.
Sure.
You know, as we both do. But we have been talking about something recently that I think really clicked with both of us. So we are both huge James Bond fans. And so, folks, we have been theory crafting a podcast, a new one called Bonded Together, which I coined. And at first I did so as a joke, because it's like, ironically, because it sounds like a sitcom from the 70s. But you really liked it.
I do.
And so it started to grow on me. And I'm like, you know what? No, that's great. We're doing it live. We're going to do Bonded Together. And it's going to be somewhat familiar if you've been listening to our podcast. But we've definitely been doing huge tweaks to the formula. So it's kind of familiar, but it's pretty different.
Very different, and not part of Star Trek Wars in any way. It will be its own unique podcast. But yeah, it will be Connor and I going through the 25 Bond films and discussing them and having a lot of fun with all of it.
Yeah. So check it out whenever that comes out.
We'll keep you posted on this channel. But it's happening soon.
I didn't know there was another spinoff. So many spinoffs. What are we, The Cosby Show? Sorry. That show had a lot of spinoffs. Sorry. That was stupid. Hey. What's up?
You know, or Star Trek.
Oh,
you could have gone with
Star Trek.
but-
Yeah, that had spinoffs.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in and listening. That'll do it for us. Star Trek Wars is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, anywhere else fine podcasts are heard. You can also find us on Twitter at the Star Trek Wars. And if you want any merchandise, you can head over to StarTrekWars.redbubble.com or follow the link attached to this episode. Connor, always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe we'll get you back and we'll just do these marathons going forward if you
That's
want.
fine by me. Harkens back to the old days when I wore a younger man's clothes.
Yeah, why are you wearing that?
Oh,
that little onesie.
Why am I wearing a bib and a and a shirt that says "I want my binky"? Oh, I thought it would make you nostalgic.
Da, 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 da. All right. Well, we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah. You can wait. You asked where you could find me. Did I answer that?
Where can we find you, Connor?
That's a good question. I'm surprised you've never asked me that before. You can find me occasionally posting on the council with my hot takes that no one is ready to hear, but everyone agrees with. And playing the video games and dreading going back to school. That's what I'm doing, baby.
All right. Fantastic. And then until then, we'll see you guys. Hit it.
Same Star Trek time, same Star Trek place. Tune in next time, folks. Will this be the end of Jeremy and the podcast? Who knows?
Hit it.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.